was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and
Big Bear Lake, about mile 279 on the Pacific Crest Trail. Just getting started today and heading out. All right, I'm going to try something different. It's first day out on the PCT, and I've tested out my Sawyer squeeze, and it had been a few months, and it is not flowing water at all. So what I am doing is having one mailed to my resupply spot that I'll be at in a couple days and just suffer through with the low flow. It's my first day of section hiking on my last section of the PCT. 2014 I started section hiking doing Oregon and Washington, and each year after that except for 2020, and I have one section left which I started today out in Big Bear and heading to Tehachapi. 290 miles from finishing, and hoping to get it done and look forward to having a good time hiking. I want to try and share a few thoughts about the trail and the hiking, the sections, and to be able to just talk a little bit about the difference between section hiking and through hiking. I'm going to flip this around here. There's a really good view. It's getting near evening, which is one of my favorite times to hike. I absolutely love hiking and hiking in the evening. Just when the sun's setting, nothing's better. It just feels great. Is Pipe Springs, just up there in that brush is the headwater where it comes out of the ground. I dug a trench and filled up a bunch of water. My Sawyer squeeze failed. Took about an hour or so to filter a liter. So what I did is I just decided I would fill up full water carry today, 5 liters, and just carry that from the spring. It seemed the safest. There was no, it looked pretty clean, looked pretty good. There was no dead deer laying above it, so that seemed the best way. The rest of the water carries, I think, are from rivers and streams, and if there are any, it's seasonal. So I'm just going to load up. There are 2 styles of water carrying. One is the style that I usually do, is I just fill up enough to get to the next water carry and call that good. And then there's the style where you just load up and for the day and carry that all day. I'm trying that style, and I'm not a fan of that. But being where I'm at, I'm going to take the water I can and move on. I walked out of Cajon this morning around 5 a.m. with a burrito and a soda, and started the climb up. I've gained probably 6,000 feet. I'm at 6,400 feet right now, and I think I go up to 8. You can see it's changed from the desert. It's not as exposed. It's pretty exposed, but it's cool a little bit because of the increase in elevation, which is really nice. Feeling good. I got my water filter, so I have a full kit now and ready just to calm things down and just do a little easy hiking, not go too hard. Trying to decide whether I'll head into Wrightwood tomorrow, how that goes. Anyway, just slow and steady up the hill today and feeling pretty good. Trying to keep well fueled, and there's a water cache at the bottom, so I loaded up on 5.5 liters and have been lugging that up the hill. I like the change of scenery though. I'm going to try and tell a little bit about what happened yesterday. Went out of Cajon in the morning and got up top and stayed in Wrightwood last night. Got a ride in from the trailhead, which was fairly easy, ran when I got there, and then hitchhiked out this morning. Got on the trail. I think I have 22-mile road walk around the, is it the Bear Creek fire closure coming. So it's closed, and checking the website, so the option is to take Highway 2 and walk around and meet back up on the PCT at mile 403. So long walk today there. Not sure about the water, but I should have enough. Carried a lot yesterday, probably a little more than I needed. That's okay. Let me flip this around one more time. That is Baden Powell. It's a fair amount of snow on it. It looks pretty thin, but where the trail goes up, and that's where the fire is closed. Has a closure also on the trail. So I should be getting to number 2 here. So in 2014 is when I started my section hiking, and I started there and did Oregon and Washington, starting in Sayad Valley and ended up in Canada. Did about 1,000 miles. Had a sabbatical, and it was just about 6 weeks I was able to do that. And then since then, in 15, I did about 150 miles, went from Sayad Valley and started doing southbound in California. My plan was just to finish at the border going southbound, but in 16 went from Dunsmuir down to Echo Lake. It was a bigger section. I think that was a little over 400 miles or so. And then a couple years going through the Sierras and starting in Echo Lake and going out just past Muir Pass out into Bishop, and then the next year into Bishop, back over same pass, and came out at Kennedy Meadows. And then in 19, my brother wanted to through hike, so I started with him and went from the border up to, was it Paradise Cafe, about 150 miles, and then later that year, from Kennedy Meadows down to Tehachapi. I went from Big Bear down to Paradise Cafe, so that leaves me with Big Bear to Tehachapi. And so I'll go back and show a little bit of what it was like in those other sections.
crap. What's it for me? It's like twice the body.
Wait, how do I know? Oh, it's going. Okay, just jump.
No, I'm gonna dive. If you go straight here, it wouldn't kill you. I'm gonna dive shallow.
Okay, you're not that good of a ow, diver.
Give me the 3s and 1.
Yeah, it's already been going for like 16 seconds.
Okay, turn it off.
Okay, go.
Gosh dang it, pick my hat up. No, the feather's in. Chip's continuing his triathlon training during the JMT hike. Oh, baby. Grass is intact. Forest ranger cat intact. Strange swimming form. Cold? It is pretty cold. Here's the current. Excellent. Into the whirlpool of death.
Got to, hold on a minute. I'm going to take a break for this. Got my hopes up for a minute, but it was empty. Hope springs eternal with trail magic. So 2021, got up to Big Bear and finished out. Made it to Tehachapi. Tehachapi, to be honest, the overpass over the freeway, there's nothing there. It's not a great celebratory spot. You know, it's a little bit of a letdown, but I did feel quite a bit of emotion at, 7 years of hiking and 8 years of working on this project was a great experience for me. That last section I thought it would be a slam dunk and turned out to be challenging in many, many ways. All right, see if I can reflect a little bit on section hiking. I'm just out on a little short hike here in Oregon and just thinking back on section hiking and what I learned and what I gained from it. I think the main thing I learned was just it took a lot of perseverance year over year, getting back on the trail and getting in shape, getting your trail legs. Just takes a little bit. I'm usually in okay shape through running and enjoy marathoning and ultra marathoning, so it's not a big hole I'm digging out of when I start, but it's a little different getting your hiking legs going. And that always takes a little bit, but that's nice. And then it takes a little bit to clear the path, to get some vacation and set aside and get out there. The other part of it is I thought that when I finished, it dawned on me, and it really realized this, but I wanted to do a through hike afterwards, and I thought that, and I still do want to through hike the PCT. I'm planning on doing that someday. I thought I would feel that when I finished that it would be a lesser accomplishment, or I just wouldn't feel the same. And when I finished, I felt quite satisfied with what I had done and very pleased and proud of it, and just glad to have done it. Look back with amazing memories over those years and built good friendships, met new people. It just felt good. So for that, when I finished, I thought it's just different than section hiking. Through hiking is different than section hiking, and they're not, you don't have to judge them against each other. I just began to realize that I could accept it for what it is. And I accepted it for the great experience that it was. One of the other things I used section hiking for was one of the great pluses is I could experiment with my gear, I think a little more severely than I could with a through hike. I went out quite often with much less than I think I needed. And I think I suffered with that sometimes, or failed. And if you learn something from your failure, I learned a lot. And I'll go through my gear and tell a little bit about that, but that was the main thing. I could experiment each year and do something different and really learn and hone things in from my own experience. For that, I enjoyed it. Let me flip this around here and give you a view of what's going on, if I can. Yeah, it's just this deep Oregon rainforest, and in January, so no leaves on the tree. It's fairly cold out here, but for some reason there's sun out. Always a good thing. It's a bit of a yard sale in here. I'll try and cover some gear, talk a little bit about what I used as a section hiked over those 7 years, 8-year span, 7 years of hiking. My base weight, without food or water, but includes small consumables, toothpaste, soap, hand sanitizer, sunscreen, that type of stuff. I was all included in my base weight. The lowest it ever got was just about right over 8 pounds, and then it generally varied just under 10, plus or minus. In the Sierra, with the Bear Vault, it was around 11 or so. So I'm going to start with my bag, the Hyperlight Mountain Gear. This is the Wind Rider, which has the mesh. It's the 2400, which is the 40 liter. I heavily modified my bag. I never ran into any issues with the mesh. It's a little frayed, but it's all in great shape. I took this bag right out of the box, and first year cut a bunch of stuff off it, and for the next 4 years kept trimming it down and just cutting stuff off after every season I'd get back, I'd say I need to lose this, and I'd cut it out. In the somewhere outside of Kennedy Meadows North, I cut the belt off this thing, and it was fine. It worked great without the belt. The honest truth is, in the desert, you have long water carries, so 5.5 liters. It got a little much, but it was fine. I survived. I didn't mind it. I did try the Z-Packs Nero for a little bit in the Sierra. I did it for a section, and just it was okay. It just wasn't cutting it for me. Love this bag. Great shape. Tents. I started off with the Six Moon Design Gatewood Cape. It's a shelter, and I had a bug net in there also. It turns into a poncho. I didn't ever think I'd use it as a poncho. In Washington around Trout Lake, 4 days of rain, I used it as a poncho. It's just wonderful. It was great. I loved it. But when I switched from Z-Lite to an inflatable, that 2.5 inches, you wouldn't think it mattered, but it pushes you closer to the top of that tent, and your feet are closer. So I switched to the Z-Packs. It's Solo Plex. The new one they have is called the Plex Solo. The Solo Plex is the old one they don't make. It is very similar to the Duplex, just it's two trekking poles, but it also is a single person. Great tent, loved it. I did try for a section bivvy. That was a bit of a fail. I should have had a tarp with it. It rained every night. I had the bivvy, and I'd have to dry out during the day. It just was too uncomfortable, and I couldn't fit inside the bivvy. I should have tried all that beforehand, but live and learn. And then I did try the Hexamed, just too small getting in it. It was a little too low, so that'll go to my son. My other one, the Gatewood Cape, went to my son, so I'll either sell that or give it to him. Let's talk about sleeping pads. So I did, like I said, I used the Z-Pad sleeping pads. I have an embarrassingly amount of sleeping pads, and I modified them. I cut them all down to make them shorter, and I did it too aggressive on almost all of them. Most of the ones I did, I just I went with the 20-inch wide pad. I sleep on my back to start with, and then I roll on my sides, hence going from the Z-Rest to the Thermarest, just the inflatable pad. It's more comfortable on your side. But with a 20-inch wide pad, if you put your, you want a place for your elbows, so I line up my shoes to hold my elbows, and it works, but it's just a little too much fussing around. So inevitably, in order to help with a good night's rest, it took me a long time to accept that I needed to carry a 25-inch wide pad. I did it. It worked great. I didn't use this, and this is pretty beat up. I used it for the last, the desert essentially, half the desert. So one of those 1/8-inch pads. So normally when I'm resting or something, you lay in the dirt. Inevitably, I would find a pad, some beat up old pad in a hiker box, and I would add that to my kit and use it as a doormat or something, and just use it for laying, keeping me out of the dirt. This fulfilled that, and I thought, just take it with you from the start. It protects your inflatable pad also. Works great. Some type of inflatable pillow did that. Sleeping pad. I used this guy the whole time. The Enlighten Equipment, Revelation. It's got the foot bag. I never wear socks on my feet at night. They're just too hot. So I like it because I can stick my feet out. This bag was really great. However, the two center baffles, in the Sierra, I was hot or cold, like all the time. And, in my journal, I'd write, I was cold at night, I was cold at night, I was cold at night. Just again and again and again. I get home, I fluff it out to get it ready to put away, and I notice that the two center baffles are empty. All the down has migrated somewhere else. So I was gonna get a new one. My brother just said, hey, buy some down and restuff it. So I did that. I bought a couple ounces of down, some gear tape, and cut it open and stuffed it in. No matter how careful you are, I had down all over my living room. It was a mess. But then I just taped it up, and it weighs a couple ounces more, but it's great. I love that bag. It's still working and going strong. Trekking poles. I started off with a matching pair. I started off with this. I broke one, fell with my hand in the strap and plunged it in the snow, and I snapped it in half. I actually borrowed it from my brother, so I had to buy him a new pair. And then I had these aluminum ones. I used that. I bent the other one somehow. So now they go together. I know they're not quite matched, but they're okay. I prefer this, but with the Soloplex, the poles have to be different heights. So I went to these. They're fine. They're not my preference. I prefer the other ones, but they get the job done. You know, I think they've been eaten a little bit by some, because you get the salt on your hand and the cork, and animals can come after them. And I cut the straps off. I understand the principle of mechanical advantage of using those with a trekking pole. It's just not my style. You know, I hike with them, then I'll end up carrying them, flicking sticks, you know, spinning them, air guitar. It just multi-use, and just too much hassling with the straps. So let's go to little stuff. Let's go to stove, cook kit. So in Oregon, I started with an alcohol stove. In Washington, I went stoveless, and most of Northern California. And stoveless at that time for me meant mashed potatoes in a bag with some water, and you just eat it. It was great while it lasted, and then it wore out. And then I tried, you know, the cold soak and something like this. But what I found, I would put in the beans, and I would put in some taco mix and mix it up and eat it. And then right after doing that, you'd wash it, and I could not have, everything else tasted like tacos for the rest of the time. So, you know, I did that for a couple seasons, and it just, I didn't like everything tasting like tacos all the time. So that was, I don't cold soak. And then I found this guy, you know, the Vargo Bot. It works great. And you can cold soak in it and clean it if you want to. I never really cold soaked. I've gone back to a stove couple of the last sections for like 10, 15 days. I started cooking. I wanted to see what would happen if I would do a hot freeze-dried meal before dinner, if it would help me sleep better. And, you know, it's work in progress. I think it did okay. Bathroom kit with a trowel, toilet paper, and some hand sani, just something in there. The tiny stuff, a couple things I did with the tiny stuff. Most of the time, I just throw everything in a bug net. If I needed the bug net, I just dumped everything in my bag, and it was a bit of a mess, but didn't get lost. I always had a bug net with me, and then sometimes I'd use this thing. Just it's light and cheap, throw all my stuff in, but I could get to it. Love that. You know, the usual stuff, first aid kit with a tiny little knife and some type of patch kit. First aid kit means, to me, means something to treat my feet. The most likely thing that's going to happen is foot treatment. The Sawyer squeeze. Yeah, my wife saw that clip of the video and said, shouldn't have you tested it before you went? And I said, absolutely, I should have. But, you know, it's sort of the way I work. The first day I filled with the spring. The second day I met a guy who had the Aquamira tabs. They do like a half a liter each. He gave me a couple of these. I stretched them to 4 liters because it was mostly clean water. So now I carry a few of these just as a backup for that, because I have lost the I carry a spare O-ring, and I've lost the O-ring. Small little toothpaste and dental floss and a brush. I always bring a notepad. I just take notes at night and write up what I do during the day. Just part of the process for me. I write notes on the gear at the end. Seems like I obsess about my gear with everything I do, but I don't really use it to get on the trail. And once I'm on the trail, I just focus about hiking and don't think much about it. I have different headlamps. A lot of these headlamps, I cut the bracket off and just sewed it just to try and lighten it up. It's not my review of that. It's not that great of an idea. Try it. Works okay. Sometimes the elastic stretches out. Spoon lighter. I do use the InReach. Used the Spot for the first 5 years or more. Then I switched to this guy. The Spot and this thing this is a little better because I can send a text. The Spot's something different. Small little battery charger. I've gone through 3 different ones. Right now, I either use this one or I got a 10,000 milliamp one that works just fine. I will share this. So the tough part of my day is blowing up those air mattresses. So part of my last section, I used the inflation bag as my food bag. Worked great because I could, fill up the pad with this thing, carry it as my food bag. I have to dump the food out, but that was fine. I don't mind sleeping with my food. I've done it, but not my favorite thing. So what I did is the nozzle here, I cut that out, and I had this stuff sack, and I just cut it out and taped it on to my stuff sack. So now I have a DCF stuff sack that I use for my sleeping bag. It helps it protects it a little better because it's waterproof, and then I can use this to inflate my pad. Double use, and I don't have to blow those up anymore. And I'm not worried about carrying something extra that's sort of stupid. I like the Ursack. It's just, I know it's a little bit of weight. It's just super easy for me just to tie it to the tree. I did try their critter bag. Of course, I cut the Velcro off and fished a string through and made it so I could do it. I like the Ursack better for the bear protection and clothes. I have a Go Light. The zipper broke on this thing near the end, so I switched to the Mountain Hardwear. I added a hood I got one with a hood. I don't know about the hood. I'm not sure I really need it, but it's decent coat. The rest of my clothes, I bring a hat. This guy I shrunk because I do like a hat that's longer so I can pull it over my eyes at night. The tents are really light, and when you get the moon out, it's just like daylight. So I pull the hat over my eyes, some type of buff, a night shirt with a hood. Used a variety of different ones. My coat, my jacket, I should say, it's not really a rain jacket. It's more of a wind jacket. And I've used this one, which is even lighter, part of the Sierra, and this one. And my philosophy from years of running in Oregon in the rain is, I know I'm going to get wet either way, whether it's raining or sweat or whatever. So it's not about staying dry, it's about staying warm. And if I can keep the wind off me, this keeps the heat in, and I'm fine. If I get wet, I got my dry stuff at night and I just put it on. From time to time, I've used a pack towel. At the end of my first section in Washington, the day before I left, I hung it out in some bushes. A deer got a hold of it and chewed it all up because it had salt on it. Cleaned it up, and some type of bandana. That is mostly my gear. So a couple things. I do try and use each section to learn, push the boundaries, learn a little bit, see what I'm comfortable with. It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's not the end of the world. It's actually a good learning experience. Like I said, I don't try and obsess over the gear. I just try and once I get out there, I just try and enjoy where I'm at, take a few notes if something needs adjustment, and just enjoy the experience for what it is. And sometimes it's okay to be uncomfortable. I'm gonna call that a wrap. So I hope you've enjoyed the journey that I've been able to share and learn a little bit about section hiking and what it entails. I've enjoyed it and glad you're able to listen along and hear a few things about it. I did document my journey each year, do a write-up and send it to some family and friends, and my son and daughters put that together in a little book for me at the end. This is just meant to be something different that captures it in a little more detail, and this is just meant to get part of it. So thanks for joining, and hope to see you out on the trails.